so as more people filter through, that's fine, but we've got to go, so off we go. Welcome first team meeting in a long time. We didn't have one in November, we didn't have one in December. Thanksgiving and Christmas always screw us up, so we got a lot of information to go through today. Hopefully you find some value. So let's start like usual, needs and wants. If you've got new listings, price reductions, need a referral, need more work, whatever you want to talk about. If you're online, feel free to speak up as well. And if you're here in the office, I've got a nice big microphone that you get to talk to. Brooke. I guess I need to unmute my mic.
Testing, 5, 6, 7.
You can't hear yourself in here, so you just have to act like you can.
Oh, okay, sounds good. So I have a listing on 750 East here in Orem. We've had it on board tour a couple of times because we just put brand new flooring in it and new carpet throughout and reduced the price 20 grand. So hopefully that's going to help it out. It's at 700 now instead of 7. We started at 750, came down to 720. Now we're at 700. So, but we've got a lot of activity, got 2 showings today, in fact. So got anybody who wants that? It's a 2-story. Everything's 100% finished. He started working down in the basement to put in a
ADU.
ADU.
One of those
ADU.
acronyms.
Sorry about that. Yeah, he cut open the wall and you could see where the plumbing and stuff is. He was going to put one in there. Kind of decided not do it, let somebody else do it, but doesn't have a basement entrance. Needs to put that in as well, but everything is there to be able to do it. Just hasn't done that part of it, but he's in the process of repainting. What's that? Square footage is what, 3,200, I believe, somewhere in there. 5-bedroom, 3-bedroom up, and 2-bedroom in the basement. So that's it.
Okay, thanks, Brooke.
Yep.
Anybody else?
I'll say one.
Cod?
Did someone else know where you going?
Drop mine.
Where you going?
Oh.
No, I was just gonna, is this even a mic?
It is a mic, but it only works for online. It helps the people online hear us.
Okay. Hello, online people. Anyways, yeah, I need a home in North Orem under 575. They're pretty flexible on the home. There's just not much out there. And the 2 homes we went to make offers on, including Barb Dills, who was on the market since September, but finally when we wanted to look at it, it sold the night before. So, but anyway, so if you know of any listing that you have coming up under 575 North Orem, please let me know. I mean, we watch the auto sheets, new listings every day, but if you got something before it hits, let me know.
One said it's Provo.
What?
One said it's North Provo.
No, they want North Orem. Yep. So, oh, you got one? This is your listing or it's coming or what? Your own home? Okay. All right. Anyone else want this?
Tim?
Listings, right?
Yeah, well, whatever you want
Or
to talk
buyers.
about.
Okay.
Listings, buyers, referrals, I don't care.
I had 2 condo listings in North Orem off of 1600 North, and one went under contract. In my mind, the one that I thought was the
Least desirable.
least desirable. Thank you. I can talk some days. Went under contract really quick, and the one that was 3rd floor vaulted ceilings, really nice, is still looking for the right buyer. So it's 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 3rd floor unit, 313. 3rd unit in 4 months that I've sold in that community, and this one, it's just weird that it hasn't sold because the others have. Yeah, wonderful. I'll send it to you. And then have a new listing coming on today or tomorrow in West Provo, 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1722 square feet, 490-ish, and new furnace, new AC, new roof, solar paid off, new water softener. Yeah. This one's on 2 levels. Yeah. Yeah. that one-on-one level had 9 offers, which was wild this week. And so thanks.
Yeah. Anybody else?
I got mine.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so my name's Clint, everyone, so I'm not there in person. I have a listing. It's a townhome over in North Point, just off of 2100 North in Lehigh. And we just had a price reduction on that one. It's $495, $900. This is a townhome again. It has 4 bedrooms. It's a finished basement, 3.5 bathrooms. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Awesome. Thanks, Clint. Anyone else? All right, we'll move on. Okay, reminder of our in-house partners, Verus Lending, yeah. Brand new entity we just formed. Verus Title is our in-house title company, and so they are owned by Fathom Holdings, who also owns Fathom Realty, and Encompass Lending, who's been offering all the coaching that we've been giving out. So they're both partners with Fathom Holdings. Fathom Holdings owns Fathom Realty, Verus Title, and Encompass Lending. So if you have an opportunity to send a business, we'd love to send them way. Beth, if you'll stand up and introduce yourself. And
Hey, my name is Beth. I am with ERS Title, South Jordan office.
you get to use this too.
Oh,
Congratulations.
okay. Oh, thank you. Again, my name is Beth. I'm with Verus Title. I've been in the business 27 years now and been with Verus almost a year. And we are in South Jordan, but we do closings, Utah County, North, South, whatever. We travel quite often to do our closings as well. We go out to people's houses, people that can't get out. We do remote online signings, which our sellers love because it's 20 to 30 minutes online, no charge to the sellers, and they can sign anywhere in the world. So we do quite a few of those. I did bring pads for everybody. So if you didn't get one, if I didn't hand you one, please come up and grab one. I'm also leaving business cards for Jessica Jensen and myself. We both are in the South Jordan office. So if you need a contact email, they're just sitting right here. You guys can grab one. I'll leave them there for you. We are, what's that?
Will you make sure Jessica gets a raise? She helped me out really good this morning.
Yes, I will do that. I'll
You
give her
need
a
to talk
treat
to
when I get
Wendy, not to Beth, but that's okay.
back. I'll let Wendy know.
Yeah.
Beth sits right next to me. So yeah,
There
we're
you-
in the same office. But anyway, so like I said, we travel all over quite a bit. I mean, we Twilla, up Ogden, Weber, we go all over. I do a lot of my closings in the evening because there's people that work. We know that people can't get away from work or they don't want to use their vacation time to sell their home or buy a home. And we try to accommodate them the best we can. Like I said, we do have the office in Lehigh as well that we travel to that office quite a bit. And that's pretty, 20 minutes from here, I think. Yeah.
Yep.
And we go to that office quite a bit. But Scott, who you guys have probably met quite a bit, Scott Gowdy.
No, he hasn't
No.
been much, but
Oh, he hasn't. Okay. Scott's in that office as well. But like I said, you guys can reach out anytime. If you're doing listings, you have questions on title, something come up, you want us to search to see if there's anything non-compliance or they owe something, how many mortgages they have, reach out. We're happy to help you guys. Can shoot us an email anytime. We're on our computers 24/7 pretty much. Weekends, just a weekend to us. If we see an email, we might reply back. Hey, give me time to get home and get to my computer and I'll get right back to you. So know that we're there for you guys anytime. Okay. Any questions from anybody? Do you guys need? She's doing all right. So yeah, I think she's trying to decide if she's ready to transition back, but she still has some business that we're closing for her and, we're doing all the communication and stuff, but yeah, she hasn't decided if she's ready to come back yet. Anything else from anyone?
So do we have numbers to call you to get out?
Yeah.
Business
My
cards up
business
here in the
card is
front.
Right here, it's Beth and Jessica. Like I said, hers is here. I just brought a whole bunch of them and I'll just leave them there and you guys.
will fix us, help us solve problems.
Absolutely.
And come down where we are for closing.
Absolutely.
Right,
Yes.
practice it.
Yep. We do it all the time. You bet. Yeah.
For me and Santa went at the seller's house and
Yep.
worked out great.
Yeah. Like I said, we go all over. We don't care. We know that people don't want to miss work and that's important. So they don't have to use their vacation time to do a 30-minute closing. Do you know what I mean?
You had a pajamas, so.
Oh, nice.
her or you?
Both. Right? Yeah. Any questions?
Yeah.
Right. Any questions from anyone or?
Okay.
No?
Thanks,
Okay.
Beth.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Jeff.
Yeah, and they can close right here. We've had a number of Verus closings right here in our office. So if you guys need somewhere to close, if you don't want to close in Lehigh or up in South Jordan or at the seller's house in your pajamas, you can close here. So you're welcome to do that. And yeah, as far as Branda goes, she's still trying to recover, as you can imagine, pretty devastated, still a lot to process there. And so Beth and Jess have taken over and kind of lifted her load. And will continue to do so until further notice. So they're the ones to reach out to, and they do a great job. All right, Trace, Encompass. Perfect timing. There's your phone.
So I'm Trace Miller. I'm with Encompass Lending Group. And like Jeff said, we've been offering a bunch of the coaching, which has been super, it's very, very good. I love it here. So we also work 24/7. So that's 31 hours. No. So just want to bring up three things here. So Encompass has a service. It's called Consumer Credit Education. And the goal is if you have clients whose credit just isn't good enough to buy a house, they will, or we will, it's a department, Josh is the name, reach out to your clients and get their credit high enough to buy a house. So I've seen this very successful. People who have Zillow just have a truckload of just names and numbers, but there's a percentage of them that just don't have the credit here, or you have a website. This is a great thing to just start trickling them in. It takes about 2 or 3 months on average. I've seen people, like I said, the goal is just get the credit to where they're eligible to purchase a home, I think here. And when I said I have to eat in July and in August, September. So I always like to seed my calendar with future business. So if you, I can give you the website or you can call me here, but you just go in there, you say, here's my client, put them with me. I'll babysit them, watch them, and then bring them back to you with, hey, these guys have credit ready to go. The second thing is, and this is super, I've seen it in other states, Verus or Encompass, Fathom is in multiple states. So I have opportunity to talk with other agents that are sending business here. So one of the things that they're doing, as I talk to them, is there's this dedicated website. So if you have a listing, it reaches out to the MLS and sucks in all the information there. And then what happens is it'll get a dedicated website and say, okay, and it also turns out into like flyers. So when I go to see houses, one of the things that I'm always impressed is when I see not the MLS sheet in black and white, a nice color thing here. But so this will have the agent's information, the house. You can post it, leave it behind in the house, but it's also a dedicated website. And here's where this actually matters here. Okay. So I send out an email, looks like this, and it basically says there's 3 things in here that you want. Number 1 is there's a QR code. It goes to the dedicated website. Okay. People love to just take their phone, snap it, and then start going through. And all of a sudden your information is in front of their eyeballs. Okay. The second thing that this is really good is they go out to the seller. The seller has probably, let's say it's a him and her, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. They probably have 300 to 500 people in their social media, and they post this QR code and say, hey, I'm selling my house. You're going to be in front of people that you're just not going to get, but they're going to put it out there with their family, their friends, their coworkers, so forth, and that here. So this site has basically this email that I send out has 3 things. Has the website, the dedicated website. It has a PDF of the flyer here, and then it has a QR code here. And I've seen these agents that are just killing it. They give it to their sellers. Hey, guess what? I've got a dedicated website of your house. Everybody loves their house. It's their house, and they're going to go out and they're going to brag. Hey, I got my house. And you can see it if you look at my QR code on my website. I think so. It's a great service and a great opportunity here. So the consumer credit is awesome for harvesting buyers, and the dedicated website is awesome for listings here. So once again, I'm Trace. I have an office over here. If you haven't seen me, I'll get you a CNI dog because I'm here all the time. So If you have any questions, it has to be like anything like, did Adam and Eve have a belly button or?
So this is kind of like the listing report or broker. What's the other one that we have?
My single property website,
That
my single property website.
broker thing that you can sign up for. It's like $15 a month and you can go.
Oh, yeah.
Stuff like
Mhm.
that. That kind of.
Exactly,
Same
it's
thing.
exactly what it is. You can
Yeah.
get flyers, you can get a dedicated website. Like I said, I've taken it a little step further. I go ahead and grab the QR code, which is on the flyer, and I put it into this here, this one here, and it just has look, this is designed to just intrigue people. It has MLS number at the top, and it says scan this QR code to learn more about this property. Doesn't tell a price, doesn't tell a picture, doesn't tell a city, doesn't tell anything. People's curiosity, they gotta go, look out the phone, boom, look it up, and all of a sudden, your name is in front of their eyeballs and so yeah, here. And then they can turn around and forward it to their friends. So it's like I said, it's designed to be viral, and it's like I said, very successful. It's one of these things that, like I said, I'll package it up and do it for you. And all you have to do is to turn around and say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I got something awesome about your house. So anyway, any questions, you can call, email me. Like I said, work 24/7, 31 hours. So.
You can tell, you always want a lender who's good with math.
That's right.
Whatever you do,
nobody
you want
loves
a
math.
lender with good math.
Breakthrough broker.
Breakthrough Broker, yeah, they're good. So there's a number of different sites like that as well. But Trace is free for a lot of things.
That's right. We're gonna leave it at that.
Training coming up from Encompass so that you guys know. It's on that consumer credit education program. That's the one where they'll help repair or fix or raise your client's credit scores. January 29th, here's the QR code or the URL. This will go out in slides, so you can get that as well. But sign up for that, and it will be at, what's that, 11 o'clock a.m. our time on January 29th. All right, we get to skip this part, but we'll get it next month. So part of what I do in my emails that I send out is I'll give you a challenge, or I'll ask you a question about your business, or I'll ask you if you need help or whatever. And agents are often surprised that I actually respond and help and care about what you guys are going through. One of our agents, Lisa Flutie, emailed me back once that she isn't doing as much business as she wants because she's scared of rejection. And so I mailed her this book and she read it. And then I challenged her to do the rejection challenge. And if you're interested, here's a playlist from Jai Jang, who's the author of this. This is his 100 days of rejection that he went through. And he now has a whole site and a whole thing around rejection theory and helping you overcome rejection. And I'll have Lisa come and talk about it. She had to cancel on us today, but she'll come in and talk to you about her challenge. I had her do it for 30 days and how she felt about it and how that helped her. And so I'll let her talk about that. But this is a great book if you have issues with rejection. If you don't already love rejection, this will help you love rejection. So it's honestly an amazing, this guy and the things that he went through. His very first thing that he did, his challenge was to get rejected 100 times in 100 days. And the very first thing that he did was he walked up to just a stranger and said, hey, can I borrow $100? Right. And it was so interesting because watching it from the outside, when he said this, the guy first said, well, no. And this guy, the author, was totally like, okay, fine, never mind, and started walking away. And the guy said, well, why? And he said, no, it's okay, never mind. Right. And just walked away. And I think if he would have taken that back and said, well, this is why I need the $100, who knows? Maybe that would have turned into a yes. Right. But we're also normalized on getting rejected that we just take immediate rejection and walk away. So a lot of good takeaways from this. Interesting things. Yes.
I'm just gonna add this here. I think people are just designed to say no. So I remember I was married for maybe a month, and my wife said, I need to get a new church dress. It's gonna be blue and it's lace ruffles, and she described the whole thing. So we go into the like JCPenney's where I went, and we go up, and I'm thinking, the lady comes up to her and says, can I help you? And I'm thinking, can't tell about this dress. And she goes, no, we're just looking. And I was like, what? Anyway, so we wandered around for about 10 minutes, then she went back to the lady and she's like, it's gonna be blue and it has this lace ruffles and, and she found it, and I thought to myself, I always thought about that of like, why do people walk into, it's mostly a sales situation and they're just designed to say, you? So like I said, it was very interesting.
We just don't want to be sold, right? And there's a lot of takeaways from that, Robin.
My dad had furniture stores, very successful. His point was to this comment, you have to let the customer get off their chest what they're programmed to say. So first thing they walk in, hi, how are you doing? Is there something I can show you? Is it, no, we're just looking. Good, check mark. Be happy to look. If you see anything of interest, we do have some sales scattered about, and then you teach yourself, you stand back, give them their space, and then watch them. Because then they'll have something and they're looking for, because they already said, we're just looking. But he goes, they'll walk into a furniture store because I've got 20 minutes to kill. They have something they're thinking. So then you come back. Hi, so did you find something? And then they'll tell you what they're looking for. Because it's just the process. They
Part of the
have to
process.
Tell you. No, I'm just looking. No.
Yeah.
Every time.
So you always have to get the no out of the way. One of the conversational techniques of phone calling is to get the no out of the way at the start, right? You say, hey, is this a bad time to talk? Right? And most people will say, no, it's not a bad time to talk. Right? And it allows them to get that no out of the way, and then you can go forward. So interesting techniques there.
There's a book by Jim Camp. He was an executive guy, and it's called Just Start with No.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, good book. Really great book. All right, forms. Let's go through some form things. First, updated forms, updated since November. Most of them were updated in December. There's 4 forms that were updated. Number 1, the land rep C was finally updated. It's been a long time in coming for the land rep C. This was updated with all the new and current stuff, including HOA, buyer agent commissions, and those kind of things. And so it's just a
License numbers that.
Yeah.
Why did they not have that?
Yeah. So that got transitioned into the regular rep C, but wasn't in the land rep C, and it now is. So that form got completely updated. It's nothing nothing groundbreaking. And yeah, but
It's just like down the bottom where it says page 1, it says age 1,
mm,
and then on initials, I think it is, it's spelled.
spelled weird. Maybe they had AI do it. I don't know. Yeah. The second one is the limited agency consent agreement was updated. The only thing that they updated it with is that statement that says that brokerage fees are fully negotiable and not set by the MLS and blah, blah, blah. That whole settlement statement that needs to be there, that was updated on the limited agency consent agreement. The real estate brokerage compensation form now has check boxes for if the agent's going to get paid on the net or on the gross. The rep C doesn't have that, but the brokerage compensation form does. Nobody uses the brokerage compensation form anymore. Most everybody puts it in the offer, but it is there if you want to use it. They also created an addendum to the brokerage compensation form. So if you need to do some kind of an addendum to whatever you and the other agent agree to, that's now available. And so you can find and use that. And then lastly, the exclusive right to sell was updated. A new section, unrepresented buyer fee, was added. So 2.2 now says, if the buyer comes and is unrepresented, the listing agent will be compensated an additional X amount, either dollars or percentage. And so if you typically charge your seller more for unrepresented buyers, which I highly suggest because you're going to be doing twice the work, you can now include that in the ERS right at the start. So that's now available to use. And then the last one is that the seller authorization checkbox was added. This is section 2.3. In this bottom line, seller does not authorize the company to enter into written compensation agreement with the buyer's brokerage. I had a lot of questions about what this is and why it's there. So I want you to think about it this way. 2.3 authorizes you to give compensation information out, and then the buyer's agent, the buyer agent, could send you a brokerage compensation form. That form could say 4%, right? And who signs the brokerage compensation agreement? The agent. So the buyer's agent and the listing agent, right? And the buyer's agent and the listing agent make an agreement over that compensation. Before this box was here, you just did it, right? You didn't have to ask your seller about it. You didn't have to ask your buyer about it. You just unilaterally agreed to whatever compensation was sent over in the brokerage compensation agreement. This is now allowing the seller to say, look, you don't have authorization to enter into that agreement without me being part of that, right? And so this is saying you cannot do that on your own. You have to get the seller to agree to that. And usually that's by putting it directly in the Rep C. If this is checked, really the only way that you can enter into an authorized compensation agreement is via the Rep C, because you're not authorized to do it as a company, right? Is that clear as muddish?
Signature line for the buyer seller.
So there are signature lines for it, but they're not the ones that enter into the agreement, because when you think about that agreement is between listing brokerage and buying brokerage. And so buyer and seller aren't actually entering into the agreement for payment between those two entities. The only people that can enter into that are the agents or the brokers, right? And so all the buyer and seller are doing on that form is just saying, yeah, somebody showed it to me, right? Listing agent would even never do that for him, because you never know what can changes happen. I mean, this is all pre-offer basically. Yep. And you don't have any idea how things could potentially change and all that. And so anyways, I just think I would never do that anyways, just without my seller agreeing to something, right? Yeah, I mean, are there use cases for the brokerage compensation agreement? There are a couple, like some very fringe ones in my opinion. But like Todd said, I believe the best way to do compensation is in the Rep C, right? That way you have all the terms laid out before buyer and seller, and they can negotiate and decide what's going to be best, both in the compensation and in what's being paid for the home. And so I truly believe that's the best way to do it. I do want to talk about section 2.3 because there is confusion around what it is and what it does. Section 2.3 says that it's an authorization to offer compensation to the buyer's brokerage. So the first line, the company is authorized to advertise or otherwise communicate that the seller and or the company is offering to pay compensation to a buyer's brokerage in an amount of. Okay, so this is the seller giving you permission to advertise this or to communicate how much they're potentially willing to pay, right? But it is only authorization. It is not binding. So if I put 5% in here, does that mean that the seller has to pay 5%? If I put 1% in here, can the seller pay 3%? Yeah, right. This is only an authorization to advertise this amount, right? So if I put 1% in here, Brooke, and I call Brooke, and Brooke says, yeah, we're offering 1%. And I say, great. And I write an offer, and in the Rep C, I put 3% and the seller agrees to it. Is that okay? It's totally okay. The seller is agreeing to pay that amount, right? So the binding of the actual commission paid is through the Rep C or the brokerage compensation agreement. Those two items bind the seller to pay that, right? It is not the ERS anymore that binds it. For agents that have been with us longer than the new Rep C, the old ERS allowed or gave two amounts, right? It gave the listing agent and the buyer agent commissions, and those were automatically paid no matter what, right? So if it were 3 and 3, that 6% was going to be paid by the seller regardless of if the buyer was unrepresented or not, or how much you negotiated the buyer's commission. That's not the case anymore. The only binding amount in the ERS now is the amount to the listing brokerage. The buyer brokerage is not binding, only bound in the Rep C and the compensation agreement. Questions on that? Because I get this a lot.
Ask my question more, it makes sense. I just had a class yesterday with the attorney for the downstairs in the car, and we talked about this. he was saying, so if we put like, on this, from this authorization, and say we put, 1%, and the buyer's agent has an agreement with the buyer for 3%, they would put in the rev C 2%, because it's 2% plus the 1, he would get paid 3%. That's what.
So what the attorney downstairs was saying is this. So I put 1% here, right? And I call Todd and Todd says, yes, we're paying 1%.
You're authorized to sell.
Mm-hmm. And Todd says, yep, we're paying 1%, right? And so I send to Todd a brokerage compensation agreement for 1%.
So we do that first before we send the offer in.
So this is if I do it this way, right? We don't have to do it this way, but if I decide to do it this way, I could send Todd an agreement and I could get a guaranteed 1% because he signs the brokerage compensation, I sign it. We've got 1% guaranteed, right? That one's set aside. I've got that one.
That's not the brokerage, the listing brokerage paying that 1%. It's
Mhm.
the seller paying it.
That one's actually the brokerage paying it.
Okay.
But by doing that, the seller pays the listing agent or the listing brokerage. The listing brokerage pays the buyer brokerage. Does that make sense? For that 1%, because that agreement is between brokerages, right? That 1%. So now I send a rep C, and in that rep C, I say 2%, right? And the seller agrees. Now the listing brokerage pays me 1%, and the seller pays me 2% directly. And so now I have 3% between those two entities. It still comes from the seller.
But I think what you're confused on and what Jeff's saying, if you don't mind, is.
Yeah.
Is the way that you explained it, it's just because an agent says they're paying 1%, that doesn't, and then you accept that, and then you put 2% on your rep sheet, you're only gonna get paid 2%.
So if I call Todd and he says 1% and I say, great, right? And I only send the rep C at 2%, our 1% doesn't count because it's not binding.
So anytime you are authorized as a listing agent to be able to say what the seller's willing to pay, and as a buyer's agent, you better get that confirmed in through that document, or just put the total amount, they say 1%, you put 3 in your offer, it's covered.
Yeah.
So that's
Just
still not.
my advice is to disregard the brokerage compensation agreement and just put your full amount in the rep C.
I wouldn't even ask any, this might be, so I could be
Yeah.
wrong, but I wouldn't even ask an agent, what's the seller paying on commission? Because if they say they're paying 2.5 and now you put 3, or they say they're paying 2 and you put 3, now they're saying, hey, we already told you what our sellers was willing to pay. Just put 3 always and never ask. And
Yep.
I'm finding that many times they're just accepting that.
I would agree with that. Tim?
Getting paid more just because I do that exact
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Leah?
Said if you were to ask Todd, and he said 1%, but you put 2% in, I think that was a mistake, it should have been 3%, because you said 2% would come from the seller direct, and then the 1% would have come through the brokerage. But then shouldn't have the Repsy actually said 3%?
No. So here's what we're looking at, right? So
So the total was 3% in that example, because she said.
the listing agent tells me 1%. Okay. And so I write the brokerage compensation agreement at 1%. And we get this accepted, right? Then I write the rep C at 2%. And if that gets accepted, these two get added together.
That would know it's actually 3%. If she sees.
That's not my job as a buyer's agent. Whose job is it?
The listing agent, but could the listing agent stuff that up if they see the rep and it says 2%?
Yep.
They might be telling the seller it's only 2%.
Happens all the time.
At 1% is actually 3%, one coming from me that you're giving me, and the other 2 you'll just pay direct.
Yep.
So you have to make sure you don't get caught out.
It happens all the time. Because the rep C says this 2% is in addition to any other agreement that's been entered into.
To make sure when the seller signs that they know the total is 3.
If you've agreed to this already and you're a listing agent, you darn well better tell your seller that we already have 1% agreed to, right?
You just miss out as the listing agent, you just have to forego your 1%.
Yeah, I guarantee you that if you do this, you're paying this. Right?
That's why I said I would never do that.
No. Yeah, just don't do the brokerage compensation agreement, right? It's there, there's a tool, there's a reason for it, and there's times, and you may want to use it. Call me and let's talk through it and decide. But there are reasons to use it. But for the most part, just use the REPC for your compensation. It's just the easy way to do it.
So would the REPC get kicked back by quality control if that's not checked, seller does not authorize? No, what that means is that.
The REPC won't. The REPC won't. So the REPC is fine. If it gets checked, what that means is that you as a listing agent cannot sign the brokerage compensation agreement. You're not allowed. You can't enter into that agreement.
They'll say whatever you want, that they still give you authorization to market.
Yeah.
Mhm. And most likely, no, Beverly doesn't go back and check what the ERS says against your brokerage compensation agreement. Most likely she doesn't check that.
Ask for your property, right? They fluctuate. It depends on the hour.
Yeah. It's honestly, as a listing agent, the best way to present it is, the seller is willing to pay compensation, send us an offer, and we'll take a look at it based on what you're offering. I mean, it's up to you and your seller to decide what you're going to convey, right? What I advise my sellers to do is to allow me just to say, yes, we're offering compensation, put it in an offer, and we'll take a look at it. Right. And if they say how much, I just say it depends on the offer. Send it over. We'll take a look at it. Right.
Because conceivably, I'd pay 20% commission to a buyer's agent that we accept if we had a unique property that we felt that we charged an extra 500,000 for.
Yeah.
See, we're playing with the numbers.
100%.
So when I look at this, I go, we look like we're boiling the ocean. It seems like what we really ought to be saying is, Mr. Seller, I have the tools, the techniques to sell your home. I will market the home. I will do these things to get viable offers for you, but you're in the decision tree because they're gonna look at their net. If somebody says I want 20,000 in closing costs, it still comes back to what's my net sheet tell me, whether you call it paying the
Always.
agent, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
And then that's whether or not I will accept the offer, or the 10,000 you want me to do on repairs for the homes that are not critical. It's still back to the seller saying, at that price, not going to do it.
100%.
And we're not into it. It almost seems like this seems to me
Whoops.
as a way that we've tried to appease the buyer's agents who have spent their whole life for a long time just going around showing homes and knowing that the BAC gets them paid.
Yeah, this is actually a way that we appease a bunch of lawyers.
Sure.
Right. That's what it comes down to. But yeah. All right, we're going to move on. And if you have more questions on that, I'm happy to talk all day about it. I could talk for hours and hours about it. But we're going to talk about offers, addendas, acceptance, and counters. I get this question more times than I think I probably should. So I'm going to go through it and hopefully clarify it. And then I'll talk about it for hundreds of hours after this again. So we have the REPC, and the REPC in and of itself, if it's just a REPC that comes over, that is an offer. That is the offer, right? If I add an addendum, so a REPC plus deposit of earnest money, right? And I add an addendum to it, that whole thing now, the REPC and the addendum all combined is the offer. If I add 3 addendas to it, right? That whole thing all put together is the offer. So when you're talking about the offer, right? The offer is all of it put together, right? You cannot accept just part of it. It has to be accepted in full. If you're going to reject, you have to reject in full. If you're going to counter, you have to counter in full. You're countering the offer, you're accepting the offer, or you're rejecting the offer. Okay, you have to do it in full. You cannot reject some parts and accept others. You have to either accept the whole thing or reject the whole thing. You also can't counter certain addendums, so you can't mark addendum 1 as countered, addendum 3 as countered, and mark the other 2 as accepted, right? It all has to be marked as accepted, or it all has to be marked as countered. So, example, I've got the Rep C in addendum 1, which is the offer, and the buyer sends that over to the seller. This is now an offer from the buyer to the seller. The offer goes from the buyer to the seller. The seller gets it and counters. They counter the addendum and the Rep C with addendum 2. That now becomes the whole offer. And now this is an offer, although it's a counter offer, it's an offer being sent from the seller to the buyer, right? So the offer is now whole. The offer goes over, the buyer now counters, they add their addendum to it, they counter everything, and they now make their offer back to the seller. And now it gets accepted as a whole, right? Now, can you counter certain items out of those? For sure, right? That's what those addendums are for. But you can't mark individual ones as countered or accepted or rejected. You can't reject an addendum in the middle of a whole offer, right? You can't just reject it. You could certainly put in addendum 3, we reject all of the terms on addendum 1, right? That's okay. But you can't mark addendum 1 as rejected and mark the Rep C as accepted. It's part of the offer. You have to think of it as one whole, okay? Sure, I'll get asked about it again, but hopefully that makes it somewhat clear. All right, yes.
Every time you do it, then you've got to make sure title company, lender, and Fathom get them all.
Yeah, and the the biggest culprit of that is IntelliAgent, right? I cannot tell you how many times I get an email from compliance that says, hey, the last addendum that we has you at 510,000. Addendum 3 shows a purchase price of 510, and you're telling us the final sales price is 500, right? And then I get an email back from the agent that says, well, actually, it's because I didn't give you addendums 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and that includes all of that. Okay, we need like all of that, please. Right?
Against offer that I just, or the deal that I'm doing right now, I had to do an addendum to the seller disclosure. Well, I already had 2 addendums for something else, so I numbered this number 3. That's wrong. How do I know when an addendum should have been like seller disclosure number 1, even though I had 2 other addendums that weren't affiliated with the seller disclosure?
And that's pretty common. I see that a lot with ERS, with the buyer broker, with seller disclosures. Whenever we're doing an addendum, people try to bring in like the addendums from the Rep C and number it based on all the other addendums in the whole package. Instead of thinking about the whole package, you need to think about documents individually. So the offer has numbered addendums within the offer package. The ERS has addendums numbered within the ERS package, right? And so each document type has its own addendums, and that's how we number them. So ERS documents, buyer broker documents, seller disclosure documents, all of those would have individual numbering for addendums based on the package that they're in.
So how does, because I know that this probably comes up, so you submit a listing, you got the ERS, everything's approved. I guess I'm assuming that you're doing addendums after the fact, because does that happen for people after a document? So.
So for example, ERS, right?
Addendum.
Yeah.
So how do you create that? I mean, anyways, you know what I'm asking.
Yeah, so in IntelliAgent, there's not a specific spot for addendums to the ERS or addendums to the seller disclosures or addendums to the buyer broker, right? So you're creating a custom document. Up at the top in the documents area, there's an add document, and you'll just name it addendum to ERS or however you want to name it, right? I would suggest you name it addendum to ERS number 1, so it's easy to find, especially if you're going to have multiple addendums. Okay.
An easy fix to all this, just get rid of it.
No, because then I have to do it. And that would be worse for you because I'll just reject everything. I don't care. All right, let's talk about active time clause. So an active time clause is when a property has a contract currently in place, they're under contract, and they're still marketing the property for other offers. Okay, and so you'll see on the MLS, it will be marked as active TC. And that means that they've already accepted an offer from a buyer, and they're now still continuing to market. This usually happens when a buyer is contingent. So if you receive an offer as a listing agent and the buyer is contingent on selling your home, you may want to use this time clause addendum to allow the property to continue to be marketed, because you want to be able to maybe accept an offer that's a cash offer that's not contingent, right? Or someone who doesn't have to sell their home. This allows you to say, hey, we're going to keep the property on the market. We're going to continue to show it, and we're going to accept offers. And it also says that if we receive an offer, we can notify you and give you X amount of time. So 24 hours, 48 hours, 2 days, 5 days, whatever, to remove your contingencies and continue to purchase the property, or to get out of the way so that we can accept this other offer, or so that we can work with this other offer, right?
So what is a standard time? What would you put as a time on that?
So I would put 24 hours because I'm hard nosed. All right. I just don't think that a buyer needs more than 24 hours to figure out if they need to remove their contingencies or not. A standard time, the thing that you usually hear from most people is that it's a 72-hour clause, right? But I don't think people need 3 days to figure it out. So
Either have an offer on the property or you don't.
or you don't, right? You can either buy it or you can't. Like, figure it out. It's not hard to figure out. It's really not.
If they need more
Right.
time, they'll tell you.
So the seller might also ask, in addition to removing their contingency. So this form says when you're provided notice, you need to remove X contingencies, and I'll show this a little bit bigger on the next screen. And then you could also ask for additional earnest money to be put in the game. And if the buyer doesn't comply with these terms, then the REPC is canceled. You need to know that if the REPC is canceled, the earnest money is returned to the buyer. In fact, we just saved one of our buyers a lot of money because they were way, way, way into the contract, had continued to extend, but they were past their deadlines. And the seller sent this over. We just let it lapse, and that automatically allowed the earnest money to be returned to the buyer. Right. So just know that that's part of the deal. And then the seller can then move the second buyer into primary position once the contract is canceled. So let me make this a little bit bigger for you. This is section B. Section A says, let me read it. It says the buyer and seller agree that the seller may continue to offer the property for sale and to accept any backup offer. The seller, in the seller's sole discretion, may notify the buyer in writing of an accepted backup offer. So if the seller gets an offer and accepts it, do they have to tell the primary buyer to get out of the way? They're not required to, right? You could just leave it in place and keep that other offer in backup, right? Totally okay. All right, so section B, this is the place where once notice is provided, the buyer has to remove whatever contingencies are there. If you're a listing agent, I highly suggest that you remove all 3 contingencies. Take them all out of play. And that makes it so that the earnest money then becomes non-refundable, right? Because all contingencies are now passed. And I also highly suggest that you put in an additional earnest money amount that the buyer will deposit. Why?
More skin in the game.
More skin in the game, right? They've got to make a decision and be firm. If you're going to buy this house and you're going to remove your contingencies, then who cares? Put up $100,000 in earnest money because you're going to buy it, right? That's what you're telling me. And if you're telling me that you're going to buy it, but you're not really, then you're not going to be willing to do this, and you're probably going to back out, which is better for me so that I can take the offer that I really want to take.
Buyer that's in first position that you're putting these contingencies on, that they have to come up, remove all of that, or she's taking the second offer. Does that go in when you sign the REPC back to them? Are you putting this in as an addendum that, hey, it's still going to be an active time clause, or how are you notifying the buyer that even though your offer's been accepted, you might be bumped out of?
Well, this is an addendum, right? So this is
going to the buyer.
Usually the way that this happens is that the buyer sends over an offer and the seller counter offers with this.
So the seller and the buyer are signing this document.
Correct. Yeah, this is part of the REPC. This is an addendum to the REPC.
that they are currently, it's active or it's under contract.
Mhm.
They need to sell that home, buy this home. So when they're sending over their offers, they're gonna have that addendum
Mhm.
too, that indicates.
Subject to sale addendum,
Why they need,
what the property is, if it's under contract.
that's why seller then too, now I usually use those, because I'm getting that from the buyer. So that's why I'm saying as a seller's agent, okay, we understand that, but we're gonna still do
Yep.
active time clause.
Yep.
So you're countering with this.
Absolutely perfect.
If it's under, if it's already under contract,
No, the
though,
buyer's house.
if the buyer's already
It's
under
not closed
contract,
yet.
they can already remove all.
Can you?
No.
What if your buyer backs out?
Okay, so they need to get the same thing from their buyer if it.
If it's a whole chain, there's probably a whole chain of active time clauses all the way down the line. And those chains get super fun. They get super fun. Oh, it's more likely, super more likely than you think it is, right?
The deposit, if it does happen, so.
Yeah. So if it does happen and they sign this and they agree to it, then they cancel all their contingencies, then their buyer cancels, they're probably losing their earnest money, right? And so like I told you, make sure and check all the conditions. That's my recommendation. You don't have to, but I would strongly recommend it. I would also advise you to make sure and put money in for additional earnest money to be deposited. Right? Problems to watch out for in active time clause. Go ahead.
I'd be advised to do the additional earnest money, cause I had a listing that I had a time clause on, and we got another offer we wanted to accept. And they didn't have their home sold, that they're subject to sell a home sold, they just risked it, and just said, okay, we waive all of our conditions and move forward. And I think that if they would have had more skin in the game, my clients would have got, so the new offer was like $6,000 higher than the offer we were under contract for, and because we didn't have that, because we didn't require more skin in the game, my clients lost out on $6,000. So
Yeah.
I think in today's market, for 90% of offers that we get that we're gonna accept with the subject to sell, we're gonna do a time clause.
Yep.
And when I'm making an offer, like I made an offer on a home this week, and it was subject to sell. When I don't get a time clause, I'm flabbergasted.
Yeah.
I tell my clients to count on it, and when I don't get one, I'm stoked, but just
Yeah.
surprised.
Your job as a listing agent is to protect your client, right? So make sure that you do it. As a buyer's agent, you should be extremely excited if you don't get one of these, right? And never say a word about it. All right, so problems to watch out for. So buyer number one is under contract. You receive offer number two, you get it and you're stoked. It's $10,000 higher than the other offer. And so you immediately just send over a notice and say, hey, we got another offer. Here's your time clause, without accepting that. You can't do that. This offer has to be per the time clause. You have to have accepted this in backup position, right? Because it's not accepted, it says in the addendum, seller may notify buyer in writing of an accepted backup offer. So you can't notify them of, we got another offer, because that doesn't start anything. You actually have to accept it as a backup offer, okay? Problem number two comes from that, and we've seen this. You'll get offer number one and you'll accept it. You'll get offer number two and you'll go, this is awesome, and you'll accept it, but it's not with the backup addendum. You've now got two contracts fully accepted, and your seller is going to default on one because you can't sell the house twice, at least legally, right? And so then whichever one he backs out on, he's going to owe earnest money at the very least as far as damages. So if you're on the listing side, make sure that you get a backup addendum in place before you accept this, okay? Best practices, again, on the buyer side, always make sure your offers come with a backup addendum and ensure that your client understands what the consequences are if they decide to waive all their contingencies. Make sure they know they're going to lose their earnest money if they back out. On the listing side, make your time clauses protective of your seller's best interest. Ensure you only accept one offer as primary and give written notice on the correct form. So there is a form to give written notice. All right, guys, trivia time. Giving away a $10 gift card. So first hand goes up per my discretion, right?
In the Rep C, you can't put it up before I ask the question. In the Rep C, which section talks about home warranties?
2.4.
Not even close. On the third page. 10. Awesome. Good job, Kay. All right, so speaking of home warranties, Emil's here from Silverback. We're going to give him just a minute. He brought you guys lunch, so we'll give him just a minute to talk.
You guys are going to crush it this year. I can just tell just because you guys ask a lot of questions. My name is Emil. I'm with Silverback. I'm actually pretty new with them. So I raise a hand. How many of you guys have used Silverback before? Okay, cool. Awesome. That's I love to see that. So at Silverback, we're really all about the agent. We want to take care of you guys and your clients. So I have a background in sales. I sold solar and pest control. When you're a real estate agent, you have your client for a long time. And then once you're done selling that house, you want to keep that relationship going on to hopefully sell them another house. So home warranties are just important so that once that sale is over, there's still something that's taking care of them after the fact. And I would basically just be your assistant. If you need anything, have any problems, probably saying the quiet part out loud, we'll bend. If there's certain things that aren't in the contract and we work with you and there's certain things with one of your clients and there's something that we can do, we're more than willing to do it if it makes sense. So one thing I want to point out is this is a coupon. So it looks pretty nice for the customer. It says enjoy one prepaid service call as a gift. Thank you. So with a home warranty, once something breaks, you will call your home warranty company, pay that service call fee. So that's $75. So this encourages them to use their home warranty and they'll get their first service call for free. So that is like one last gift after the sale of the house, which is pretty nice. We also offer free listing warranties. So if you have a home listed, we'll cover it up to 6 months while it's on the market. Just another thing to give to your clients, we'll give them an email saying that your agent got you a warranty so that you're covered while your home's on the market. So we like to do things like that to make you guys look good as well. And is Cynthia here?
She's not here today.
She's not here. Okay, I talked to her yesterday on the phone. She's already killing it. I think she's got sent us 3 orders this month. So starting the year pretty strong. So I'll give that to her. If you like swig. Anyone like swig? Okay.
Only like 3 people in here like swig.
Only a couple
that
people.
Can't be right.
Sweet drinks. Okay, we'll do a little bit of trivia. I want to get to know you guys. I want you guys to get to know me. Try to guess what sport that I played in college. And the one hint is it's probably not the first sport you can think of.
Tennis.
Soccer.
No. And then the second hint would be that people debate on whether it's a sport.
Marching band.
Guys, who said cheerleading? You did it. Yeah, so
Oh,
I went
nice.
to Weaver State. I was a cheerleader there, and then I cheered for the Utah Jazz NBA team. So that's my history. So 5 years ago, I probably would have not guessed I would have been at a home warranty company, but I probably wouldn't have guessed I would have been a cheerleader either. I just tend to try to be the best at whatever I am doing. So I hope to take care of your clients. I have one more swig gift card. Let's see.
If I know one of the cheerleaders you cheered with, is that when you get?
Say that one more time.
If I know one of the cheerleaders you cheered with, Weaver, get it?
It just makes you famous. That's all.
Oh, that'd be a good one. Here, if you haven't used us before and you'll commit to use one of our free listing warranties, it doesn't cost you anything on one of your current listings right now, I'll give it to you. Does anyone want to take that offer? Anyone have a listing on the market right now? We'll put a warranty on it for free.
I'll do it.
Sweet.
We'll do it.
Cool. I'll do it for you
Double
too.
swig.
It is a free.
Hey, Agnes, if you're listening, Tim has a swig for you.
Well, thanks, guys. I brought Panda for you guys. They said bring light lunch. Panda's better. So
There you go. Love it.
There's coupons. Definitely grab some of these. 1 per client. They have a custom code on them. If you have clients that you sent them through Silverback but didn't give them a coupon, still grab a coupon. You can still give it to them and they can use that. And we really want them to use our service, read keys, furnace tune-ups, fix a garage door, whatever they want to do. So thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Emil. Hey, and so that you guys know, in section 10, probably close to 90% of the time now, again, we're seeing that buyers agents are including and sellers are paying for home warranties. $750 to $900 is pretty normal. So just know that that's kind of the norm in the game right now, just so that you know. All right, story time. This is a fun one. Story time brought to you by the real estate division. This was in the fourth quarter newsletter and wanted to go through it. So the online listing for the charming bungalow was exactly what John Smith was looking for. He dialed the number, eager to schedule a viewing. Hello, this is John. I'm interested in the property on Apple Street in Salt Lake City. The seller's agent, Utah licensee Jane Doe, sounded friendly enough. Thanks for calling, John. I'd be happy to show it to you. But first, due to a recent change in the law, I need you to sign a written agreement. John frowned. An agreement? I'm not working with an agent. I just want to see the house. The agreement turned out to be a buyer-broker agreement followed by a limited agency agreement. It indicated that Jane would represent both the seller and John and that she would be entitled to a commission. Even though John did not intend to work with an agent, he really wanted the bungalow. John reluctantly agreed. With the agreement signed, John finally got his tour of the bungalow. What problems are there?
She's listing agent, she doesn't, need to have a buyer see your that home.
Okay,
Have to
so
sign an agreement.
So if you're a listing agent, you don't have to have a signed representation agreement to show an unrepresented buyer your property. What else?
Something
If
that's not
you
true.
sign that, seller must be aware and agree to it.
The limited agency part. Correct. The seller needs to be aware. What else?
Was the rate specific for that home?
I don't know. So here's what the division pointed out. One, Jane misrepresented that John had to sign limited agency with her. He didn't have to do that, right? He might have wanted to be unrepresented. He didn't need to have an agent. Two, it is not a Utah law that buyer representation agreement needs to be signed before seeing a home, right? It is a written agreements are an NAR rule, but have nothing to do with state law. It's not a law, right? And as pointed out, listing agents can show unrepresented buyers the home without a signed agreement. So just be aware of these things when you're talking to your buyers and sellers. All right, cold calling changes. These are rules that got updated if you do any cold calling whatsoever. If you're going to call, text, or drop a pre-recorded message using an auto dialer, you have to have direct permission for your business. You have 10 days to comply with any opt-out requests, and fines are heavy. Any bought leads, so if you're buying leads from like Zillow, for example, they have to say yes specifically to your business contacting them, not just as a whole general group, right? Auto dialers, I don't.
Permission before you can contact.
Yeah, I don't know how that works now with bot leads. So I really don't have any idea. Auto dialers and pre-recorded messages are off limits unless you have written consent from the person directly to do so from your business. Do not call compliance is going to be much tighter, supposedly, and they do have heavier fines. For FSBO calls, it's okay to call a FSBO manually, so you can pick up the phone and dial it, but you can't use an auto dialer to do it. And if they're on the do not call list, you need to make sure not to call them either. You're okay to call expired listings also, but it needs to be done manually and you're not allowed to solicit, right? I want to see, hey, I've got a buyer who's interested in your house that's now off market, right?
Not to try to get.
Right. On an auto dialer. We're talking, this is all auto dialer stuff. Okay. Contacting expired or FSBOs to see their house if you have an actual buyer that is interested is okay. And email is not affected. Just continue to follow the normal spam rules. Okay. Texting follows these rules if you're texting on a mass texting platform. If I text you directly, that's manually. Yep, you can do that. All right, let's go through stats. So these are the current active stats. And I don't know why this doesn't match up. For some reason, Rapid Stats has a different number than the MLS has, but they're close. So active stats as of today, 9,400 active listings. 30 days ago, we don't have current numbers, but 30 days ago, we had 1,900 solds. And as of today, we had 4,138 listings under contract. These are the numbers from 30 days prior to that. So we're down a little bit from 30 days as far as active listings. We're way down as far as number of solds compared to 30 days ago and then 60 days ago. And then listing count is under contract is down. So more of our listings are going under contract. This is active listings. So number of active listings and the price point on those. And so the interesting stat for me, this goes back to December 2023. The interesting stat for me is the price per square foot number. It's like almost flat. It's barely trending down, right? Barely trending down on this. And the reason that this is interesting to me is if we look at months supply, so this is how much inventory we have per month going back to 2017. Here's all the Decembers. Okay, so this is where we were in December of 2024. We have more inventory, way more inventory than any other year going back even into 2017, right? But our pricing is not trending down, right? Our pricing is trending flat. Sellers are still not decreasing their price, right? So if we look at the sold listings for the past couple of years, this is 24 months of sold. This is where our median price is on solds. And honestly, we're pretty much flat for the past 2 years, right? And then if we look at days on market, this tells kind of the whole story behind all of that. Our days on market is higher than pretty much any time, right? And why? Because our pricing is staying up, unaffordability is up, right? And so our days on market is going to continue to increase because sellers aren't willing to drop their price to help buyers be able to get into a home. The affordability just isn't there, right? So I teased this in my last video, top 10 least unaffordable states. Anybody want to tell me? Well, let's take guesses.
Utah's number 6.
I thought we were 10.
Number 6, Utah. Okay, what other states?
California,
California,
Hawaii,
Colorado,
Florida,
Idaho, Washington,
Arizona.
okay. Let's see if you guys are right. So here's 10 through 6. Arizona's number 10, Rhode Island, Oregon, Colorado, Washington. Got most of those. Nobody guessed Rhode Island. And here's 1 through 5. Utah comes in at number 3. Third least unaffordable. So they determine it based on your per capita income versus the actual median price of a sales home, right? So, and then it gives you a percent or a ratio. So that's this times 8.13 equals this.
Where is this from?
I can find you the source. Homepedia or yes. Yep. So I'll send this all out to you. So we unaffordability, and part of this becomes this problem, right? This is the major problem is our income, right? While housing price is a problem, the income versus the housing price is the real problem, right? Because we're not earning enough to go out and buy a house. The normal person who works at Walmart, they're not buying a house anytime soon, right? So that's the problem. That's why it's unaffordable. Given that, here's Zillow's trend, or here's Zillow's prediction. Take it for what it is. Zillow's prediction is the top 10 hottest housing markets for 2025, right? Utah comes in at number 10. Why are we going to be so strong? Whole bunch of Californians leaving California to Utah, right? I don't mean to make light of that, but
Third most expensive, unaffordable, but yeah, it's got to have the tips.
yeah, I All right, interesting stat here. So this is one that I keep. This shows the red line is the number of transactions that we do here in the brokerage per month. The blue line is the number of agents transacting. So how many agents did a transaction in any given month? This is the stat that I found interesting, that in December 2024, we had almost the most agents doing transactions out of any given month over the past 2 years. Right. So a lot of you were busy in December. Pretty incredible, because December was overall kind of a slow month, but you guys seem to do pretty okay. So top producers for Orem, this is the top 5 producers for our office for 2024. And those top 5 are Shelly Jameson came in at number 1, Todd Telford number 2, Tim Reynolds number 3, Cameron Ure number 4, and Phil Levine number 5. I've seen your stats, Brooke. You're not on there. All right. So how did they get there? Right? I've got a video showing you how they got there.
My name is Julie Thompson. I'm a real estate agent. I just want to be remembered. Oh, hey!
I sold that house to them, and she doesn't remember me.
Babe, that was 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Hi, Stuart.
Can I help you?
It's Julie Thompson, the agent who helped you find this house. We saw like 50 houses together. Your son pooped on a coffee table at one of them.
Look, I don't know who you are, but I'm gonna have to ask you to leave.
I go here, they don't remember me. I go there, same thing. I don't know what's happening.
You're overreacting. Your clients love you.
Well, how come they're all unsubscribing from my recipe emails and returning my fridge magnets?
How does it make you feel when clients don't remember you?
Angry, confused. I mean, all the things we've been talking about since we met when I sold your house. Are you kidding me? That was literally 6 months ago.
I don't think that happened.
Hi, this is Julie. Julie Thompson, your agent. No, I'm not looking for an agent. I am one. I helped you buy your house.
I listed your house.
Do you remember me?
Do you remember me?
Do you remember me? Do you remember me? Do you remember me?
All right, so that's probably not what happened, but I do want to give, I asked 3 of these top producers, the top 3, to give me one reason that they felt like they were successful. And so we'll start at number 3, Tim. What's your take on why you feel like you were successful?
Miss Reynolds, just, I mean, not really kidding.
Grab the mic for me.
It's overwhelming when you don't have the business volume that you want. And so just getting out there and putting lots of irons in the fire and working hard sounds super cliche, but my focus has always been look at many silos to generate by business. As soon as one starts producing, put lots of energy there and know that it's your work's going to pay off. I know that when I'm feeling overwhelmed with lack of business, I know that a little bit of work, a little bit of effort towards production just goes a long way. And even if a month later it still is not there, it's going to come through. That pipeline is going to burst. And so don't lose hope when it's over, when you're frustrated with things. Look at different ways to generate leads, be creative, talk to Jeff. I mean, it's amazing to have a broker that answers his phone. I am guessing I probably called Jeff as much as anybody out there. And because I have questions multiple times per week and want to pick Jeff's brain on things, and he's willing to help. So
thanks, Tim. Todd?
I would say that, and not everybody I've come to realize is able to do, juggle a lot of balls at the same time. I had a friend in the business years ago that he would be so busy he wouldn't even have time to answer a phone call. And I'd be like, man, you got so much business going on. And then I find out he's got 2 clients, and 2 clients also made him like, where he didn't have time for anything extra in his life. I can juggle a lot more. And so the thing that I was going to share with you guys that I do that I really believe is my success is my communication and how quickly I reach out to respond to clients when they call me. One of the greatest compliments I got from a client one time, and this was during a time when I think I had 10, either between 10 listings and under contracts that I was working on, plus a handful of other clients that I was working with. And my client told me that I made them feel like they were my only client because I was always so readily available every time they needed something, reached out. And so I kind of build that type of relationship. And most of my business is all just referral only or past client, business that comes back to me. After closings, it's not over. I know a lot of times an agent will close a deal and they move on and kind of like that video we just watched. I just had a situation this week where we closed a deal last October, and I've been in contact. The client came to our Thanksgiving thing as well. But in December, he said, hey, we've got some issues. How do I take care of these? It was a new construction. I said, you need to reach out to the home warranty company. Well, I followed up with them on Monday, and it was a couple of weeks ago, that he reached out to me about that. And I just reached out to him on Monday, just said, hey, just want to make sure you got those things taken care of. That's not something I had to do, but I just remembered that, hey, I want to reach out and make sure he's taken care of. And turns out the builder has not been responding. The home warranty company's doing nothing. And so then I got involved on Monday. And then later that day, they heard from the builder and they're supposed to be there today to fix those things. So the main thing is just, be there for your clients. Regardless of how much business you have going on, just be as accessible as you can to them. And by the way, I don't work many weekends and I don't work many evenings. So it doesn't mean you have to not have a life to be that accessible, but just try to answer your phone and reply to every single client in person when they reach out to you. So
Thanks, Son.
you bet.
Shelley's online, and Shelley actually had her best year ever, I believe, this year. And lots of agents were telling me it's impossible to have a good year this year. That it's super slow and there's nothing out there to sell. So Shelley, what would you say?
Consistency is the number one thing. So, I've been doing a lot of videos for years and I do it every single month, twice a month. And people rely on it from me now, and I have to do it, even if I don't want to do it. People will text me or message me on social media, like, when is your next video coming out? And I'll say, oh, it's always the first Thursday of the month or whatever. So I've also found ways to be creative with giveaways and spotlighting businesses here in my town. I think a lot of people are really afraid to dial it in. But I think finding your niche is probably the best thing for you. A lot of people might be surprised that I don't work outside of Utah County. Very rarely, unless it's a special situation or a friend, or maybe I'm helping them sell a house here and then we're going to buy a house maybe in Harriman or something. But I don't work outside of Utah County, and I have enough business to just stay in Utah County. So I find people that I trust outside of the county, and those are the people I refer them to. And I'm not an expert in Park City, so why would I take a buyer there? I feel like if you're super transparent with people and you say, hey, Park City's not my place, right? Like, I love it, but I don't know enough about it to represent you in the best capacity. And I refer them to someone else, they're going to love me and trust me forever, right? Because I literally gave up my business so that they could have a better experience. And I think if that's kind of your motto, I just see a lot of agents that are super greedy and they want to be everything to everyone. And I don't. I would rather spend time at home with my family or doing what I love than driving to Park City or driving to Ogden or wherever. So also, besides consistency, I really truly believe I'm not a salesperson at all. I sell real estate. Yes, I do, but I don't believe in scripts or any of those things. I believe getting to the root of why they want to sell their house or buy a house, and then being helpful and educate them. And that's it. So I'm a customer service person. That's it. And I think when you really truly believe in that, it will show through and people love me. I have over 65-star reviews. I don't want to jinx myself. I don't have anything less than a 5-star review. Like, it's really important for my clients to have a really good experience. And that means doing my duty of putting their needs before mine every time. Like Todd said, you need to have boundaries, obviously, because this job will run you into the ground. But if your clients are the most important and money is second, I think it will show, and it's worked really well. And I wanted to do this too, because like that video made me laugh. I do a pop by every quarter for all of my previous clients. And then I deliver all of the pop bys to like my warm leads. So anybody who's kind of reached out to me, I'll go knock on their door and give them a little pop by. And these aren't expensive. I get all of the stuff online. I have an assistant who makes it for me. I have an assistant who drops everything off for me. And then I do all the warm leads or people I'm currently under contract with. So people can't say they don't know who I am. It shows up 4 times a year at their house. And then I have client events as well. So these people are seeing me 6 times a year at least. So, you know, you can't finish the transaction once you get paid. It's like, it's a forever thing because all of these people know you and like you and trust you. And if they sell their house again, they're going to call you. So why do cold calls when you can work on the people who you've already worked with and keep them in your, you know, on the horizon?
Awesome. Thanks, Shelley. And there's a lot to unpack there and what Shelley just gave us, what Todd gave us, and what Tim gave us. And Cameron and Phil have the same kind of stories, right? Before even hearing from any of these guys, these are what I broke down that they do. They are consistent. They have real estate conversations all the time with people. They are great at converting, so moving people over from just looking to actually buying, and they provide value. They give something of value to their clients, right? And that's not saying that the pop buy is what's the value. It's the value that they give in the transaction that actually makes a difference. I guarantee you, if you want to talk to any one of these people about what they do to be successful, they're all happy to share and to help. So reach out to them, take them to lunch, pick their brains, figure out what you can do to be just as successful. Because I guarantee you, and no, I'm not trying to diss on any of these people, but they're not special in any way. They just work their butts off, and that's how they get to where they are, right? And so if you're willing to do it, anybody in this room or anybody listening to this can do that. All right, a few things, we'll go through this fairly quickly. A few ways to get more business, because I told you I'd give you some ideas. The 10 lead sources, the 10 Ds of real estate. Look at death. I know that's not a fun one, but look at people who have died and helping them, right? People who need to downsize, people that have diapers in their home that may need a bigger house. Diplomas, so anybody that's graduating college, or if somebody has a high schooler graduating that may be moving out. People in debt and distress that may need to downsize or sell. Divorce almost always leads to a house sale and usually 2 more purchases, honestly. So it's a good one to be in, although they're super difficult transactions. Diamonds, so if you're getting married or engaged. Disability and disease. Distance, so if they live far away from work or far away from somebody that they need to take care of on a regular basis. And disaster, so California is a good example, right? That's a reason that you may need to be moving. So these all have things around them that indicate that they may need to have your services involved. So how do you have those conversations with them? Well, here's 4, I think I put 4 reasons here for the call, right? Reasons that you can make a phone call to any of these people. Number 1 is a super simple one, right? I was driving through your area and thought of you, right? I do this one a lot, and I'm sitting in my house and I wasn't driving through anybody's area, but they don't need to know that, right? And so I often make this phone call. Hey, I was just driving through your area and thought about you, right? And then I have a Ford conversation, right? Number 2, last time we chatted, you mentioned that your kid was in a soccer tournament in California. How did that go, right? Number 3, hey, I saw that there's a whatever concert coming up, right? And thought that you might be interested. Have you heard about it? And this is my favorite one. As part of my service to you, I like to sit down with you once a year and update you on the value of your real estate. Would you have 15 minutes to go over that with me on Thursday or whatever day, right? This is something that I do for my clients. I try to do it once a year. I don't always make it exactly like on the year date or anything, but about once a year, I sit down with my clients and I go through their real estate values. And let me show you a video about what that's about.
I want to set a context for you. If you're listening to this, have you ever gotten a call from your insurance agent that said, let's do an annual policy review? I am a Liberty Mutual customer, and about once every 2 years, they call and say, hey, let's go through this. Maybe there's some discounts, maybe some things have changed. And more often than not, here's the point. As an industry, we are behind. All of our competing industries, insurance, investment advisors, they've been doing annual reviews for a long time, or annual checkups. For some reason, because of our mindset, we've been missing an opportunity to provide a key service. So let's start doing that.
And I think you really need to take that to heart of, we're professionals in this business. Are we treating it like it? These guys all are, right? And a lot of other professions do the same thing. So take the opportunity once a year to touch base with your people, let them know where they sit with their real estate. Last way I'm going to provide you today for getting some more business is investments. So investors are still strong in the market. They don't care about interest rates as much. They don't care about, where the market's going, up or down. They're just always investing, right? And if we look at this stat, in the third quarter, this was asked, how likely are you to buy another investment property? In the third quarter of last year, 38% were very likely to do so. In the fourth quarter of this last year, that went up to 55% of investors who said they're likely to buy another investment property. So investment is big on the minds of people right now. I will give you this one caveat, and this is broken down by areas. If you look at the West, we're pretty low. And why? It goes back to unaffordability, right? And so in fact, I've got investors who are saying, look, I do want to buy an investment property, but I want to buy it in the Midwest because prices are better there, cash flow is easier. And so you may want to find a great agent that you can refer to somewhere else. Although there are some good properties here that could cash flow and could be okay, right? If you really want to dig into it. All right, a few things to end up in the news. Number one, Realms. If you know Realms, where all your CE is banked, that's gone, went away. It's now replaced by My License One. They're going to refer to it apparently as ML1. And so if you ever hear ML1, that's what it is. You can check your CE clients, renew your license, apply for a license upgrade if you're moving to a broker or whatever. Hopefully you never have to use the move a license to another brokerage function, but that's there as well. And if you need more information on how to do this, there was an email on January 10th, and the subject line was important information about your real estate license and new online system. It tells you how to move over. Just know that it's a pain in the backside. It's not usually easy. I had to go through 4 email accounts and addresses to figure out which one actually tied to my license. So it may be a little bit difficult for you moving through. Also in the news, NAR continues to be in the news. Phoenix area MLS decided that they were going to offer what's called MLS of choice. That meant that you didn't have to be a member of their local association, the state association, or NAR to be a member of the MLS. They offered it at a discounted price. NAR got kind of upset about this. And so NAR hit Phoenix with a cease and desist order and said, you're not allowed to do that. You must cease and desist. Phoenix came back and said, you guys suck. I'm sorry, but this needs to be something that people can just choose and do what they want to do. We don't have to be required to be part of NAR. And NAR has now come back and moved to revoke the Phoenix Realtors Charter. That's where it stands at this point. We don't know what Phoenix is going to do or where it's going to go from there, but this is one of the big things to be watching to see how our industry is going to be moving forward with NAR. No matter how you feel about them, good or bad, this is going to be a big deal. In addition to that, NAR has asked the court to dismiss a Michigan case where 3 Michigan, a broker, a brokerage, and somebody else sued NAR over the same thing, where they're required to join different associations to be part of the MLS. So this is an actual lawsuit that's going through the courts, and NAR has asked them to dismiss that. And the Supreme Court is on top of NAR as well. They denied the NAR's appeal to say that the DOJ could not continue to look into their business practices, right? And so the Supreme Court said, nope, the DOJ can do that. They can look into their business practices and decide if it's antitrust or not. So we may see more on that front in the coming year as well. So just some things to be aware of. Quick fire. We do have our client appreciation pool parties coming up for 2025. It's usually less than $200 an agent. It's very cheap as far as client appreciation parties go. It's a great way to promote your business. It's really good for new agents. And the reason is you go to this pool party and there's a whole bunch of people there and they think that every one of those people is your client and they think you're super successful and whatever. And so it's a great way to do it. We are only doing the Sierra pool this year, and that's because Linden tripled their prices on us. So it's like $3,600 for 3 hours. So we just couldn't afford to do that. We currently have July 16th and August 8th. We'll add others as needed. We have 12 agents, I believe, currently that are okay or wanting to participate in this. So if you want to participate, let Meyer I know as soon as possible. And we will ask for a $100 deposit per agent this year. The reason isn't because I can't carry the funds and pay for it. It's because we had a number of people who got to the last minute and backed out on us, and that screws us up. So we just need to know that you're committed to go forward if you're going to do this. All right, this is a fun one. So I often call agents and this is what I get. Your voicemail's full. So please check your voicemail. But the other fun thing is I often get this. Hi, this is John or Mary with Equity or Realty Path or Keller Williams or whatever brokerage you used to be with before you came here. It's still there. So go check your voicemail and make sure that you're with the right brokerage. Kind of important that your clients know who you're actually with. Yeah.
I like to, it's like a test to see who you're working with. If you call them and the voicemail's full or they answer their phone, hello, this tells you exactly how the transaction's going to go. So it's usually a test. And when they answer their phone on time and they say who they are and who they work for, it's amazing.
Yeah, no, I agree. That's awesome. It's a good test. So on your phones, and all contacts, honestly, don't forget to back up your data, guys. I've had a couple of agents who have lost everything, all their contacts, all their files, all their everything. So just remember to back up. If you're not sure how to do it, let me know. I'm happy to help you through the backup process. All right, that's it. Unless you guys have questions, concerns, issues. It's been a long one. I'm sorry, but a lot to cover. Go get some food, enjoy yourselves, and thanks for being here.